First up is how to get the extremely hidden Zombie Ooze Pet. This disgusting oozeling is actually Zlorb, and you usually need to wait until the end of the game to get him, but there is a way to have him join you during Act 2. Now to do this, you'll need to pull off the Connor's Corpse trick, which we talked about in my last Baldur's Gate 3 video. Basically, slay Auntie Ethel, pick up her wand called Bitter Divorce in her Acrid Workshop, do not save Mayrina in the process, and also pick up Connor's Corpse. From there, bring Connor's Corpse beside any other corpse, use the wand first on Connor and then on the other corpse, and both targets are brought back to life. This can be used to bring any target back to life within Act 2's Shadow Cursed lands to then cause them to die to the Shadow Curse. This means they will return as a Shadow Cursed undead, allowing Oathbreaker paladins to control them. This opens up a ton of possibilities, but I wanted Zlorb specifically. So I went to Last Light Inn, killed the strange ox, and then brought it back using Bitter Divorce and let it die to the Shadow Curse for my own personal disgusting oozeling pet. I also tried this trick on Sovereign Spa, Auntie Ethel, and Omelum, but Sovereign Spa would never get afflicted by the Shadow Curse. Auntie Ethel's corpse disappeared in my stash, which was ominously creepy, and Omelum, upon resurrecting, told me there was no point in senseless violence and teleported back to the Underdark. So this trick doesn't work on every NPC, but at least it does on the strange ox. And next up is a secret reward you can earn from Guex in the Emerald Grove. By talking to Guex, you can discover that he is struggling to learn to fight. Through a number of different dialogue options, you can attempt to help Guex. If you have Detect Thoughts on, you can learn that Guex is troubled by an awful event. He witnessed a young boy having his head ripped off by a warg as he just stood by, and he swears it will never happen again. Knowing this, you can unlock new dialogue options encouraging him to forget the past and stay focused on the present. This helps Guex, and he's able to properly strike the target after your encouragement. Afterwards, he'll say that he found this weapon down by the road and he'll give it to you. This gives you 3 rewards in total: a battle axe, 10 XP, and an inspiration point if anyone in your party has a soldier background, which Lae'zel has. But be warned, failing the Detect Thoughts DC 10 roll causes you to enter combat with the entire Emerald Grove, so it's a risky roll. And next up is a secret helmet that is actually a key that opens up a hidden underground passage. And within that underground passage is an NPC that if you cast Heal on, you can actually get hidden dialogue. This secret helmet is none other than the Key of the Ancients. The Key of the Ancients is a story rarity helmet which grants the wearer a bonus to nature checks, but also allows you to open massive stone doors that would otherwise be impossible to open, one of which exists within Nettie's chamber. When you inform Nettie that you've been infected with a Mind Flayer tadpole, she'll bring you into her room and begin to ask you about symptoms. If you slay her, you can loot the Key of the Ancients from her corpse and then use it to open the massive stone door in this room. However, you'll also need to first pass a perception check when getting close to the stone door, otherwise you won't be able to interact with it. So make sure to cast guidance on yourself before moving close to the stone door. Once you pass the perception check, the door will become interactable, and if you're wearing the Key of the Ancients, you'll magically open the door. Within the underground passage, you'll also find goblins, but also Findal, who is unconscious. By casting a healing spell on Findal, he'll awake, and you'll be presented with a number of dialogue options asking about him, the goblins, and what's going on, all of which is probably something most players missed. And next up is a hidden interaction with Madness. Madness comes from a number of different sources, such as Insanity's Kiss, Toxic Secretions, or a number of confusion spells and abilities. But did you know there is no immunity for Madness? Unlike Charm, Possession, Paralysis, Blindness, and other conditions, Madness in Baldur's Gate 3 is a sort of unstoppable force that you can never have guaranteed immunity from. For example, you can go mad from the Shattered Flail that drops off of a Null Flint. No aura or protection spell can stop this if you fail the DC 10 Wisdom saving throw. And even worse is Insanity's Kiss, one of Auntie Ethel's brewed potions found in the Acrid Workshop. This instantly causes madness without any saving throw. I was just surprised that there is no spell or ability that can help prevent going mad, like Protection from Evil and Good can help against Charm, Frightened, and Possession. Not even Saravok's Horned Helmet worked. It seems nothing exists to prevent madness. And next up is a trick that lets you cast spells without breaking stealth by first crouching down into stealth mode and then casting any cantrip or spell with with Metamagic Subtle Spell activated, you will not break concealment. That's right, you will instead roll a stealth roll as if you were under the effects of greater invisibility. Now this is actually insane because nowhere does Metamagic Subtle Spell say that it gives you this ability. It can definitely come in handy for those situations where you don't want to be noticed. And next up is an interesting interaction with Dispel Evil and Good, the level 5 Abjuration spell, which allows spellcasters to protect themselves from evil and good creatures and allows them to break enchantments on allies, specifically Frightened, Charm, or Possession. Now, first of all, this spell does not work at all against aberrations, even though that is the first creature type listed in the spell's description. Attacks against you do not have disadvantage if they are coming from an aberration, and you cannot break any enchantments on allies that come from an aberration. I tested this against the Spectator in the Underdark, and it did not have disadvantage on its attacks against me, and I could not dispel the charm placed on the drow. And if that wasn't enough, the spell also doesn't remove the status effects that it advertises. For example, the spell will only remove Frightened, not any effect from the Frightened status group, like you might think. So for example, Abjure Enemy would not be removed even though it caused Frightened. And while this spell wasn't that great, even on paper, it turns out it's even worse than that, making the spell pretty bad. And next up is a ring that can make you immortal in Baldur's Gate 3. This ring will instantly revive you back to half health when you become downed, which is insanely powerful and can really make you nearly immortal. This ring is After Death Do Us Part. After Death Do Us Part is a rare ring which allows its wearer to regain half their hit points after being downed, but be cursed with shadow possession. However, the ring is currently still bugged as of patch 8, and you will not be cursed with shadow possession. You'll be revived normally, and not only that, but because you're healed from downed, any items you're wearing that activate when you're healed will be activated, which is a nice bonus. Now you might be wondering, does this make you immortal since each time you get downed, you come back with half health? Well, I tested it, and it turns out there is in fact an internal cooldown which is not shown on the ring. And that cooldown is once per long rest, unfortunately. So you'll need to make sure not to get downed twice within one long rest and expect to get back up with half HP. But half HP is incredibly good considering you were just downed. And you can earn this ring by saving Oscar Favras in Act 1, and then letting him die to the poltergeist during the quest Free the Artist in Act 3 after progressing to the point where you can make that dialogue choice and then loot it off his body. And next up is a super rare dialogue that you get when talking to Thola. To get it, you'll need to first pass an investigation check to see if Thola has anything valuable you can steal from her. When you pass it, you notice her boots look valuable, which then gives you the option to steal them. The cutscene then shows you pulling them off her, after which the cinematic ends and you have the boots. You can talk to Thola again for more dialogue options, but if you instead throw an antidote potion at her, you'll get an amazing response from her, which is nick my boots and patch my wounds. An odd trade, but I'll take it. Now, since most players probably wouldn't heal Thola if they were just going to take their boots, it's a dialogue most players probably missed. And next up is Malil. Malil is a divine entity encountered in the epilogue. He's a bard who plays a lute and supplements his music with a band of spiritual instruments, but he is no ordinary bard. Malil is a minor deity of song who has been cast out of Faerun's pantheon and banished to the fugue plane by Cyric. Withers pulled him back in order to honor the worthy with his songs. The player character may pass a passive religion check during conversation to recognize him, which will greatly improve Malil's spirits. Alternatively, the player character can pretend to recognize him by passing a DC 18 deception check, which will also raise his spirits. Although that is about all you can learn about him because he is otherwise just functioning as a jukebox for the epilogue celebration, allowing you to change the song that is playing through dialogue. And since you need to pass a religion check to know who Malil is, most players probably had no idea a minor deity of song was performing at their party. And next up is a secret cutscene you can get at the end of the game. During the epilogue, if you attack anyone, in this example I attacked and killed Volo, then a cutscene will trigger where Withers will begin to lecture you on how despite sharing friendship, fire, and food together, it still was not enough to stop you from ruining his party. He'll then open a portal to who knows where, and then will begin casting a spell which drags you into said portal. I was playing as God Gale during this, which didn't change the cinematic in any way, and just shows how powerful powerful Withers is. He finishes his speech by saying he grows tired, and then off you go into the portal, ending the epilogue and starting the credits roll. It's a pretty neat cinematic that most players, or most non-murder hobo players I should say, probably haven't seen.